Welcome to the session of Database System Concepts. I am Vijayalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, Lakshmi Ramaswamy College, Trichy. The outline of today's session is data models and their categories, history of data models, schemas, instances and states, three schema architecture, and data independence. First, we are going to see about data model. Data model is a set of concepts to describe the structure of a database, the operations for manipulating these structures, and certain constraints that the database should obey. Data model structure and constraints. The data model constructs are used to define the database structure. Its constructs typically include elements and their data types, as well as group of elements, example, entity, record, and table, and relationships among such groups. Constraints specify some restrictions on valid data. These constraints must be enforced at all times. Data model operations are used for specifying database retrievals and updates by referring to the constructs of the data model. Operations on the data model may include basic model operations, example, generic insert, delete, and update, and user-defined operations, example, compute student GPA, update inventory. Categories of data model. The data models are categorized into conceptual data model, physical data model, implementation data model, self-describing data model. Let us have a quick look on what is conceptual data model. It provides concepts that are close to the way many users perceive data. They also called entity-based or object-based data models. Physical or low-level internal data models. It provides concepts that describe the details of how data is stored in the computer. These are usually specified in an ad hoc manner through DBMS design and administration manuals. Implementation or representational data models provide concepts that fall between the above two used by many commercial DBMS implementations. Example, relational data models used in many commercial systems. Self-describing data model. It combines the description of data with the data values. Examples include XML. Next, we are going to see about what is schema and what is an instance. Database schema is the description of a database. It includes description of the database structure, data types, and the constraints on the database. The schema diagram is an illustrative display of a database schema. The schema constructs contains a component or object within the schema. Example, student and course. What is the difference between database schema and database state? Database state refers to the content of a database at a moment in time. Initial database state refers to the database state when it is initially loaded into a system. What is a valid state? A state that satisfies the structure and constraints of the database. So the main difference is the database schema changes very infrequently, but database state changes every time the database is updated. So schema is called intention, state is called extension. Here some of the examples of database schema. In student, it contains name, student number, class, and major. For course, it is course name, course number, credit hours, and department. For pre-requesting, it is course number and pre-requesting number. For section, it is section identifier, course number, semester, year, and instructor. For grade report, it is student number, section identifier, and grade. These are some of the examples of database state. In earlier, the schema just only contains the attributes, but in database state, it contains the values. For course, the values are data structures and then value for course number and what is credit and which department it belongs to. The same is valid for section, grade report, and pre-requesting. The next one is three schema architecture. The DBMS schemas are at three levels. They are internal schema, conceptual schema, external schema. Internal schema at the internal level to describe physical storage structures and access path. Typically uses physical data model. Conceptual schema at the conceptual level to describe the structure and constraints for the whole database for a community of users. Uses conceptual or an implementation data model. External schemas are at the external level to describe various user views. Usually uses the same data model as the conceptual schema. This is the diagram for the three schema architecture where end users are at external schema, external level, and then the users or contacts with conceptual schema. The conceptual schema communicates with internal schema. For external level and conceptual level, we have a mapping. These mapping provides communication between external level and conceptual level. Similarly, there is a communication between conceptual level and internal level using mapping. The mappings among schema levels are needed to transform request and data. Programs refer to an external schema and are mapped by the DBMS to the internal schema for execution. Data extracted from the internal DBMS level is reformatted to match the user's external view. Example, formatting the results of an SQL query for display in a web page. The next one is data independence. That is, when a schema at a lower level is changed, only the mappings between schema and higher level schemas need to be changed in a DBMS that fully supports data independence. The higher level schemas themselves are unchanged. Hence, the application programs need not to be changed since they refer to external schemas. Thank you.